We have a new NHTSA investigation on Autopilot underway. FSD Beta 10 gets a date on Elon's calendar. Model 3 looks to sport something new under your feet, and more. This is Tesla Tidbits episode number 664 for the week of September 5th, 2021. We lead this week with another National Highway Traffic Safety Administration investigation into Tesla Autopilot in the US, this time specifically related to emergency vehicle crashes, and we get our info courtesy of Inside EVs. This is going to be an interesting case with the agency, as we may end up running into an emotion versus logic situation that Tesla may not come out on the right side of. In case you've been unaware, standard autopilot does have some limitations due to the way that radar technology works. Specifically, in the instance where a moving car leaves a lane and a stationary car remains, autopilot, as well as literally every other radar-based system available, will treat this as a false positive because slamming the brakes on at highway speeds for no reason is also a great way to cause an accident. There are other incidences, too, where the emergency vehicle may be slightly occluding the lane, which is a different situation where autopilot is just not meant to handle the control. The user needs to take over. To be clear, NHTSA has identified a total of 12 of these cases among 765,000 available Tesla vehicles in the US over 3 years of operation. This works out to a minuscule 0.0015% rate of accidents among owners. For comparison, according to incident data from ResponderSafety.com, this year alone there have been 44 incidents resulting in a fatality, with another 51 incidents that weren't, totaling 95 at the time of this story, and we're not even out of the year yet. Given we only have 12 in the 3 years mentioned, non-autopilot drivers are vastly outpacing autopilot drivers on the share of accidents involving emergency responders, at more than 8 times the accident rate in a single year, let alone the full 3 years of incidents cited. But NHTSA has some very specific questions around this topic, leading me to believe that we may be in for some rough waters ahead. The article mentions specifically they wish to know how the system is expected to respond to a parked emergency vehicle on the road. They also want to know how it detects those vehicles, such as by flashing lights, flares, or vests on the emergency crew. Where this could get really sticky is the capabilities of the different versions of Autopilot. As we know, we have 3 different cores of Autopilot functionality: the Mobileye version, the NVIDIA version, and then Tesla's own custom version. Each of these varies in functionality. While I think it's pretty safe to say, given what we've seen of the FSD Beta, that Tesla's hardware can absolutely discern and react to these things, a significant amount of the fleet, yours truly included for now, may not be able to say the same. It is very possible that NHTSA could come down with a ruling that fractures the autopilot fleet. It is my hope that they can see the data in front of them, that a 0.0015% accident rate comparative to standard humans driving is a number that is better because of autopilot, not worse. It's clear that normal humans are doing a much worse job at trying to navigate emergency vehicles. Hopefully the agency sees logic rather than emotion and rules as it has in the past that autopilot is a technology that is a benefit to safety, not a detractor. Tidbit number 2 dovetails with this though. Elon took to Twitter to let us know that FSD Beta 10 will be rolling out at midnight on Friday the 10th. Now again, Elon time here folks, so it may not be set in stone, but more interestingly was the follow-up from Toby Lee on Twitter asking about updates on approval of FSD for Canadians. Elon responded with a very non-committal answer saying, quote, "Not sure, but maybe a few months. In general, for any region, we need to make software work well, test it extensively, and then get regulatory approval. If we could go faster while being safe, we would," end quote. Many detractors would have you believe Tesla doesn't care about safety, but were that the case, they'd have turned on FSD for everyone everywhere already. I know our Canadian friends, and even more so our friends around the world, are waiting to get access to the system, but know that Tesla is learning lots to keep you safer when you finally get the system. Tidbit number 3 also dovetails somewhat from that one, in that this is of interest to our international friends, specifically in India. Courtesy of Tesla Club India, we find out that Tesla has completed homologation and received approval for 4 vehicle variants in India. There are no names yet associated with the vehicles approved, but the account speculates that they are variants of both Model 3 and Model Y. Given recent regulatory back and forth between the government officials in India and Elon, it seems that we're that much closer to Teslas finally being officially sold in India. Tidbit number 4 this week is an interesting change in the Model 3 battery pack, and this one comes from Sawyer Merritt on Twitter. Sawyer received a tip from a Twitter user Aaron that he'd received an email from Tesla regarding his Model 3 Standard Range Plus order. They'd been quoted an end-of-year delivery date, but Tesla is offering a new Standard Range Plus battery pack, which they note they, quote, already released in Europe and Asia, end quote. Astute listeners might realize that this is the lithium iron phosphate, or LFP, based battery pack that was developed at and began shipping from Giga Shanghai. At Battery Day, they talked about the LFP cell chemistry, noting its application for lower range vehicles and long cycle life. This, of course, describes the Standard Range Plus Model 3 perfectly. This means one of two things. Either Tesla is shipping packs from China back to the US to satisfy demand, or they've begun producing them in the US, starting their transition to the next phase of battery strategy discussed at Battery Day. Regardless of the source, this is a great development, as this will either lead to cheaper cars for customers or better profit margin for Tesla. Either of those results are good things for the push towards sustainable transportation. Elon later added on to the tweet saying, quote, "Our intent with this pack is that product experience is roughly equivalent between nickel and iron. I'd personally slightly opt for the iron pack, as it wants to be charged to 100%, whereas nickel prefers about 90%, end quote. This is an interesting distinction, because even though the Standard Range Plus model is normally a 263-mile car with its usual battery pack, you're likely charging to only 90%, giving you a normal daily range of about 236 miles. With the LFP pack, you get 253 miles, period. While you'd technically get more range if you used a full charge on the original pack, you're not going to use that very often at all, so the trade-off would be worth it on a day-to-day basis. And our final story this week, though reported everywhere, Teslarati was the first that I saw to give me the heads up to update my app on my phone. And that story is that the Tesla app on your phone has been given a long overdue makeover. The layout is far more modernized and functional, and a bonus on iOS at least, widgets are now a super useful thing that you can actually add to your home screen. Other small visual bonuses include your interior color matching your car, as well as video tutorials being added for the newer owners among us when there are questions on how to do something with the vehicle. As of show production, this has only been released to iOS users, however, it shouldn't be too long before our friends on Android can enjoy the new experience as well. That'll do it for this week's show. Thanks to all my patrons supporting the show at patreon.com/Tesla Tidbits. As always, I have a special shout out to all the super patrons supporting the show at the $10 plus level. They are Ryan Scarborough, Lee Sweet, Dorian Steve Guberman, Ralph and Cheryl Waterhouse, Todd Sullivan, Zortec LED Canada, Ricky Johnston, Nathan Garza, Ed Patterman, Sunil Joseph, and Brad Lettner. If you have feedback for me, the best way to be heard is to tweet at Tesla Tidbits and use the hashtag AskTeslaTidbits if you'd like your question to be considered for the show. Until next week, keep it charged and hit the road.